Hello everyone, I have a short video here about biomass energy in Tasmania, or the potential for biomass energy. And this pertains to the idea of achieving about 90 megawatts of generation. Now, I've tried to keep the graphs to a minimum. I think the more graphs you have in a presentation, the less people will watch it. Anyway, let's get right into it. Basically, you can burn wood-based materials to generate electrical energy, and foreign countries are pursuing eucalypts, which grow natively here, as energy sources, but we are essentially ignoring the potential of this. Biomass energy is baseload, in contrast to many other renewables, and I'm suggesting we could have three biomass generators of about 30 megawatts each for regional areas. To support that many megawatts, you would need annually approaching 900,000, just under tons of biomass. And this is a fraction of what we actually export in the form of wood products. Now, most of those wood products are wood chips. So about 2.6 out of that, what is it, about 3.4 million tons are wood chips. And historically, that purple bar is quite low. It was a lot higher going back 10 years, and it will get higher in the future because we have a lot of plantations maturing, new plantations. And I'd just like to add that a lot of waste can be used in a biomass generator, so not all of that requirement would be pulled out of existing product streams. In terms of plantation area, you're looking at about 24,000 hectares. Now, that does assume optimal rainfall and so on, but as a starting point, that's how much land you need to sustain this. But we have 368,000 hectares of plantations. That's not even including native forest, that's only plantations. Most of that's in private hands, but I think about 110,000 is in government hands. We just sold off, 29,000 hectares. So that was a significant sale, and by chance that happens to be about the amount that you would need to sustain 90 megawatts of baseload biomass energy. So we need to be careful about selling off forestry assets if we want to have a nationalized biomass energy industry. I'll get to why it should be nationalized later on, but that's not a partisan comment. I mean, I would be critical of selling off forestry assets, whether it was a Labor or a Liberal government. The Liberal government federally do recognize biomass as being renewable, but Labor doesn't, which is very disappointing and completely absurd. Anyway, moving on. So this is the annual harvest area, and again, you make some assumptions about optimal growth conditions and so on. So if you have 28 years of growth, you need just under 1,000 hectares to be harvested annually. Now, maybe you harvest more than that and you have less years of growth. You can do it either way. But people, often complain that, oh, you're burning forest to generate energy, and I think that's just a horrible thing, even though it's renewable. I say just look at the area burnt by bushfire. Alright, so the 55-year average is 26,000 hectares. Now, I'm not saying every last tree in that burnt area is fully destroyed, but that is the area that's described as being burnt, and that average doesn't include the last couple of years where we had a more severe loss than average. So the amount of material that we would burn in generators is actually relatively low compared to what's burning naturally. And of course, we've had bushfires occurring for millennia and millennia, millions of years probably, and it's a natural process. The forest burns and it grows back. Alternative biomass sources, and I won't spend too much time on these, but you have council waste. I've seen trucks going around my area generating tons and tons of wood chips per day. I'm not sure what they're doing with them, but they could be used to generate energy. Sawmilling waste, which has even more potential. There's actually a project up here in the northeast to do something with that to make pellets, but that's a fairly small scale project. And logging waste, this is the biggest one of all. Bark stumps, branches, defective logs. There's a lot of material that actually isn't even suitable for wood chips, and we could be using that, and that would, I think, account for a very significant percentage of the biomass required. So huge potential there. You've only got to look around areas here in the northeast. You'll see a lot of biomass material just being left to rot. It's just all over the place. Here I talk about the a comparison with wind power, and I show that to generate the same gigawatt hours per year, that's the total generated energy, you need actually a lot more rated installation capacity for wind. So to equate to 90 megawatts of biomass, you would need 217 megawatts of wind. That's because wind is intermittent, has a very low capacity factor. Not as low as solar, but it's quite low, and yeah, you just need more installed capacity to get that accrued gigawatt hour number up. This is a comparison of construction costs. The costs here are estimated based on reports of relatively modern installations. So I'm referring to the millions of dollars per megawatt installed. And because you need more megawatts of wind to accrue those gigawatt hours per year, you actually have a higher installation cost overall for wind to generate the same amount of energy per year than you would for biomass installation. Just something quickly here on the economics of actually running the biomass generators. If you assume $100 per megawatt hour, and you can argue it can be either side of that number, but that's a reasonable place to start, I think, because it is baseload renewable energy. You get about 67 million in revenue from selling the electricity. And as far as securing the fuel supply, and this is if you weren't using any waste, okay, this is if you were just getting it all from dedicated plantation, you're looking at about $41 million per year. But I think a significant amount could come from waste, which is normally just left to rot. So essentially you just have the cost of transporting it and shipping it. And there are some other benefits. You have a domestic, which is to say Tasmanian consumption of wood products, less reliance on exports. And remember, every ton of wood chips that we export has some carbon miles associated with it. So those are sort of prevented. We can use a lot of waste material, as I said, to produce a big portion of this energy. Better job security in the forestry sector, and some regional jobs at the power plants. And it's not all about jobs, but we often get told about jobs in wind and solar, so why not also talk about jobs in biomass? We will have the ability to utilize waste heat if that's needed. So that's actually a pretty big topic. I won't go into it, I'll just mention it. And because we have some significant baseload generation capacity, we have a little bit of extra flexibility in managing our hydro assets. So that's it. Hopefully that was interesting. I do have all the references and so on for calculations. Interested parties are welcome to contact me on that. Anyway, thanks for watching.